Hello everybody and welcome to the third lesson of the tutorial for Roll-a-Ball project in Blender Game Engine. And where we end up last time, we have just movable player, and if you watched the bonus tutorial, bonus lesson, you can move it smoothly with linear interpolation. Well, and what's next? We would like to have some collectible objects, pickable objects, and all these objects will be same. So we will just make one and instantiate it. And what if this one won't be only object? What if we will make just one cube? But what if we want uh, many objects as one instance, or many scripts and materials attached to it? What if our collectible object will be very universal? We will want to use it in other levels. We will want to use it even in other games. So the common way how to do it in games is make prefab. Make one prefab that will contain all the objects, scripts, materials and whatever, and you will just place it wherever you need it. So prefab of the turret, prefab of some enemy, zombie, whatever, and you just drag and drop it to your scene and you have it worked. And if you want some change, you change the prefab and all the instances of the prefab will be changed. So I hope it makes sense, and now we can go for it. First, just for a better performance, I will go to wireframe view and change this material from gray to green, just to be clear what it is. And if you have just one level, as we have right here, you can place your prefabs just to invisible layer somewhere like here, whatever. But if you have more levels where you want to use your prefab, or you have many prefabs, it's better to make it new scene completely just for your prefabs. And if you have some complicated prefabs, like from many parts, many objects, many functions, it's better to have even a new Blender file just for this prefab and linked this prefab to your main project. So we will just make a new scene. Here you can see it contains nothing, not even world, and we don't need anything. This is just container for our prefabs. So I will name it prefabs, so I know what I can expect from it, and I will make the collectible. It will be just the cube. I will scale it with 0.5, move it along z-axis by 0.5. I will not scale it anymore, so I can apply the scale. So I have my scale 111, which is what I always want, and scale it even lower. Oh, why am I in 3D cursor? Oh, I remember. But with the median point, scale it again 0.5, or you can just scale it. I just want dimensions 0.5, half meter in any axis. Control A, scale, so it hover over the ground, it's not land on the ground. Rotate it, not exactly randomly, but 45 in each axis should be enough. And I believe it's okay. Put it some material, just whatever you want, and name it. It will be our pickup object. And this is still just object, this is not prefab. as the Blender game engine will access it. We have to make it group, add it to group, and this group, how is possible that I already have it? Oh, sorry for it. I will just make new group and name it pickup object prefab. Sorry for it. Pickup object prefab. It will be my group and it will be my prefab. All prefabs has a beginning or center point, as the cube has one, but the prefab itself has center point in 0, 0, 0. It means the global axis. It has center of the universe as centered. So if I place it anywhere in any game, in any level, anywhere I want, it will be placed according to this point, not to the center of the cube. And I can have more objects in one prefab, and it's still just one group, one prefab that I will add somewhere and it will work. Well, and it's pretty good prefab, but boring prefab. So I can make not exactly animation, but I can rotate it in pretty much random axis constantly. So it's moving and it's more appealing for grabbing it. So I will add script to it. I know that I can just make it through actuator, but we of course want to exercise a little bit scripting, so we each frame run our Python script. And because this is not our player, this is prefab, we will make new script just for the prefab. So it will be prefab script not.py dot function that will run. If you remember from the last lesson, we want write some magic box which will rotate this constantly and some axis. So rotate, why not? And we will write this script. So again, go to our text editor. We have the player script here. We just add the new text. It will be our prefab. You know what? It's don't snap. It's always better to just Ctrl C, Ctrl V. It will go against most of the typos. Just that py. And now we can define our rotate function. It will take nothing. It will just rotate. It will don't take any inputs and anything. And as always, we need import. Why I can write import BGE and mathutils. You don't need mathutils always, but we will work with vectors, and always when you have vector you want mathutils because you probably need something like angle of the vector, length of the vector, and weird kind of stuff. Whatever. What we need the object which we want to rotate. And this is again, as in any other script, as previous, we wanted to find our player. Now we want to find our cube, little cube that will be rotated. And again, we already have the controller, so we just name it somehow like controller and find this object and name it. It will be just object. It's only one. And the script will be really short, so I will know for certain that object is my cube that I want to rotate, my pickable object. So it's cont owner Okay, and some vector for our rotation. So rotation vector could be, and we will use our math utils. Math utils vector and create our new vector. If you watching simultaneously or if you watch previously the tutorial for the Unity, as I'm referencing him in the description, and I'm practically recreating the same thing. So they are using, I believe, 15, 30, 45 vector for rotation, and then you can do just object and I believe apply rotation, not apply, again different layout of the keyboard, sorry for it, and apply rotation is just vector. We have the vector, so copy it here, and true or false if we want the global or local. False is global, true is local, so false we want global axis. And there are two things that you should do between applying this vector. First of all, this is directly changing some position on or rotation. This is not applying any forces or velocities, and so you want this actually somehow convert to speed, because this will run every frame. So from like this is written now, it means it will be 15 degrees in x-axis, for example, each frame, and the unit per frame is always bad with games, because the frame rate will change. If you want or not, it will change. So you want actually transfer or convert the unit to per second, and it's not really hard thing, but each engine does it a little differently. So if you watch the Unity, in Unity they have function time.delta time, and they multiply it with pretty much anything they do, because they converting with this time.delta time any value to actually speed per second, not per frame. Because this time delta time is time between two frames. It's how long this frame is taken. So if you do the math on some paper, you will find out, yes, this is actually converting to from per frame to per second. But in Blender we don't have this time between two frames, but we have the frame rate itself. So again, if you take some paper and do the math, you will find out that if you some value multiply by time between frames, it's same thing as if the value is divided by the frame rate itself, because it's frame per second. So if you divide it, you get the value per second. Maybe it's too much math, too confusing, don't worry. Just remember, if you want not 15 per frame, but 15 per seconds, you just take the value, the rotation vector, and divide it with BGE dot logic, and now you can write here average frame rate. But you should know from previous lesson that frame rate isn't actually frame rate of the scripts, because logic ticks can be different, can be higher than actual frame rate of the game. So to stay with the script, you don't get average frame rate, but get logic ticks rate. You can of course find it all in the Blender API. If it's, I believe, just go to BGE Logic, and it's not many scrolling to the page, and you will find get logic degrade. I hope I write it right, and it's all. You divide it with logic degrade, and it will convert it. Now it's 15 degrees per second, not per frame, and it will stay per second regardless of frame rate, because it will always be divided by this frame rate. Don't get confused anymore. And second thing, what is wrong, I still talking about degrees right here, and Unity actually works in degrees in script, but our function apply rotation works with radians, so we want convert these numbers to radians. We can do it right here, that we will write the formula for it, but we can be lazy or can save some work to the logic editor, to the physics calculation, and we can exercise our math skills. So 15 degrees is actually pi divided by 12, I believe. So can I write just pi? Yes, I can. It's pi. So pi divided by 12 is some number, and this number is my 15 degrees. So I will change 15 degrees to this number. Oh. And 30 is pi divided by 6. So this is 30 degrees. Again, change it. And 45 degrees is pi divided by 4. If you don't know what this means, pi divided by 4, go for it. As I always say, Google, Wikipedia, YouTube, find it. Find radians. You need radians for any math, for any vectors, for anything. Computers just work in radians, science work in radians, and real world works in radians. So give it a try. It will make your life much easier to understand it. And it's all, this should work pretty well. So we find our object, we have it, make some vector in radians, transfer it to not per frame but this radians per second, and apply it to our object. If I try it, you see the cube is rotating as I want. So I already have my rotating prefab, but I want to collect it somehow. So how I will collect it? I know that I will use collisions. I can write script that will measure distances between the pickable object and the player, and if the distance will be less, then don't do it that way. If you are using rigid bodies and physics engine as it is, it's, if you want or not, it will always count the collisions, because it's need it for the simulations. So you have these collisions, so use them. If the player will collide with this object, it will do something. It will destroy this object, bring some point to the player, to score, whatever. But we will need this collision between player and this cube. So this cube has to be somehow physical body. And why am I in Blender render? It doesn't matter, change it to Blender game. We didn't do anything that is against anything, so you can just change Blender game. It's maybe if you make new scene, maybe not. But in the physics, it can stay static. We don't apply any forces on it. we just change the direct rotation, if you remember. You should remember. And because we want the collisions actually give the ability to player to go through this object, so we will set it to ghost. And actor, why not? This doesn't really change anything for collisions itself. It's kind of affecting if you have the sleeping. So if you have object that doesn't move for a while, it will go to sleeping state, and in sleeping state the object actually can be collided with. So the keep this actor with everything that has some scripts, for example, or it's some action object in your game, like despicable. Well, and collision bounds, of course, it's box, as always. The radius doesn't matter in this case, because if you set collision bounds to box, it will take the dimensions from the mesh. And this is prepared pretty well, but if we use collisions, we have to somehow distinguish or somehow tell this object from the others, because the player will collide with ground, for example, and we don't want to collect the ground. So we can address this object by name again, but it would mean that the collision will be measured each frame for every object in the scene, and for every object in the scene will be some if function that will control if the name of this object is my object. And we can actually save ourselves a lot of computing if we set some property to this object or some material. But for example, now I have gray material, which is same as the ground, so it wouldn't help me. Only if this cube will have a special unique material just for it, I can use distinguishing for distinguishing the material, but I will use property, because with property I am certain that only this cube has this property, and it will be like what it could be, collectible, why not? So this will be collectible, and we don't need any actual value, we just need the property to be here. But if you want for example different score for different collectibles, you can put it here. But if you don't need any value, just go with boolean, set it true or leave it false, it doesn't matter, you need the property, you don't need the value. Okay, and our prefab is finished. This is all we need, this is all we will do with our prefab. We will just place it to our main scene. And how to place new prefabs from anywhere? You have two options. You can go add like any other object, but go to group instance, and here is the pickup prefab that we just created, and you can add it to scene. You can see it's here. Or if you have many prefabs and you want to keep everything organized, you can go from in outliner from all scenes to groups, and here I see my prefab, pickup op prefab. I can even see what object is contained. I can go through these objects and do different stuff, set it to not render, not invisible in a viewport, whatever. And I can even add it to scene just by picking the prefab, the icon of the prefab, and drag it to my scene. So classical drag and drop, add to group, it will add it somewhere. I can get rid of the transformation, so I can use Alt G, or I can go to my object settings and hit backspace. And it's here and it should work. So if I try the game, it works. Any errors? No. So everything works good. Just one thing to keep in mind, it should be rather logical, but you are probably aware that if you are duplicating object in Blender, Blender gives them a name. So if I with Alt D, because I want to save some memory, duplicate this prefab, it will add it new name. It's pick up object prefab 001. But this is the name of the prefab. If I go back, why can I go back to all scenes and change to the main scene, I can see two pickup prefab, but if I expand it, I can see that this is even if this is pickup object prefab 001, the actual object that it's in the game is pickup object prefab, and it's same for both pickup object prefab. So the name of the object, if you run some scripts inside your game and you want to find objects by name, keep in mind that all your prefabs has actually same name. So if you find object by name pickup object prefab, it would find both of these. So be aware of it. Okay. So what can we do? If for some reason I have shifted mouse cursor, but whatever, we can set transformations to 3D cursor, which is in center of our scene. If it's not, I can go Shift S and cursor to center, and with Alt D, R, rotate it by 30 degrees because I want 12 of them, and with Shift R I can repeat this step 11 more times, and now I have 12 prefabs. Why they are not here, or why I am not seeing them? Oh, because I just have turned off the viewport. Okay, and if I run the game, they are functioning like they should. And if I move, I can move through them, but I want to pick them. And because I am again in half an hour mark, I will leave the picking script actually to next lesson. I hope this what I told makes some sense. It can help you with something. It's very generally how the prefab works, how to put them into scenes, and to not waste any other time, go to the next lesson, and thank you very much for watching. Until the next time, bye.